Hello, grade 6 students, you are watching Delta Educational Channel. Our lesson today is about the story of the Creeping Man. Chapter 7, Story Up, page 41 to 46. At first, let's listen to the story.
Chapter 7. When we entered the study, a small clock on the desk began to strike softly. It was 11 o'clock. Holmes and I waited patiently as Bennett searched the professor's desk drawers for the small wooden box which held all the professor's secrets. Finally, Bennett placed the box on the desk and offered the key to Holmes.
"I think you should open it,"
said the young man. Holmes took the key from him and gently inserted it into the tiny lock. It opened easily. The box contained an empty bottle, a bottle filled with a pale blue liquid, a hypodermic syringe, and some bills of payment signed A. Dorek.
"You were right,"
Bennett exclaimed as he looked over Holmes' shoulder.
"The professor has been taking medication. But why? Is he ill?"
"I doubt that," said Holmes as he searched through the bills. There's a letter here, and it's postmarked Prague. Holmes unfolded the letter and read it aloud.
"Dear Professor Presbury, I have reviewed my notes and have decided to start you on a course of a special serum that I have developed. The serum contains a number of energy-boosting herbs and flower essences, and I'm quite certain that it will help you regain your vitality. I have no doubt that you will be looking and feeling younger and healthier in no time. I have several patients in England who have used the serum and their feedback has been quite positive. You can order the serum from my distributor in London, Alphonse Dorek. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Dr. Howard Lowenstein, Prague."
Bennett shook his head in disbelief.
"So the professor had been taking some kind of potion which he thought would help him regain his youth,"
he said. Holmes nodded.
"That's madness,"
The young man exclaimed.
"If I had known about this, I would have put a stop to it immediately."
"That's why he kept it a secret," said Holmes. "He was afraid that you would all react negatively." The detective removed a magnifying glass from his pocket and examined the label on one of the bottles carefully. "Aha! Exactly as I thought," he said. "This so-called medicine contains langur extract." "Langur extract?" I repeated. "A langur is a type of monkey, isn't it?" It was then that I figured out what Holmes had suspected all along. "Of course!" I exclaimed. "It all makes perfect sense now. No wonder Roy attacked the professor. He sensed that his master was turning into a monkey." Bennett's face turned white.
"Did you say monkey?"
Holmes nodded. "I'm afraid so, Mr. Bennett. The climbing and coarse knuckles gave it away, but I wanted to be absolutely sure before I said anything. I didn't think anyone would believe me without proof." Bennett, who seemed quite shocked by the news, sat down in an armchair and buried his face in his hands.
"This is unbelievable,"
he said.
"But I just don't understand it, Mr. Holmes. The professor is an intelligent man. Why would he do this to himself?"
"Well," Holmes began, "I'm sure he was unaware of the side effects of the medication. And he's in love with a much younger woman. That's why he did it." Bennett sighed deeply.
"Who is this Dr. Lowenstein?"
he asked after a long pause.
"Have either of you heard of him?"
"Actually, yes," said Holmes. "Inspector Lestrade at Scotland Yard showed me his case file a few months ago. If I remember correctly, Lowenstein left England when his medical license was taken away. He now operates out of a secret laboratory in Prague, where he manufactures serums which he claims can help reverse the aging process. Of course, none of his drugs work, but desperate people will believe anything. He's taken advantage of a lot of people, including Professor Presbury." "Why hasn't he been arrested yet?" I asked. "There's never been enough proof to convict him of anything," Holmes explained. "And Scotland Yard can only arrest him if he sets foot on British soil. That's why he's never come back to London."
"What about the professor?"
asked Bennett.
"What's going to happen to him?"
"I'm sure he'll be fine," said Holmes. Once he stops taking the serum, the symptoms should go away. What do you think, Watson?
Yes, I would have to agree with that, I said. That's a relief, said Bennet.
Right, Mr. Bennet,
said Holmes.
now that the case has been solved, Watson and I will return to London tomorrow morning. Let us know how the professor is doing, and tell him we wish him all the best.
But what about Dr. Lowenstein? Asked Bennet. He has to be brought to justice. He has to pay for what he's done.
Calm down, Mr. Bennet,
said Holmes.
Something will be done about Dr. Lowenstein, but that is not for you to worry about. You just make sure that the professor recovers from his injury, and that he never takes that serum again. Is the professor's fiancée still abroad?
Bennet nodded. Yes, but she's expected back soon.
Well then, I'm sure you'll all be busy planning the wedding,
said Holmes with a smile. The detective glanced at his watch.
It's late. We should be getting back to the inn. Good night, Mr.
Good night, Mr. Holmes, said the young man as he escorted us to the front door. And thank you for everything you've done for us.
It was my pleasure,
said Holmes. We returned to the inn and went to bed immediately. I had difficulty falling asleep, though. I couldn't get the image of the professor climbing the creeper out of my head. At daybreak, I joined Holmes for a light breakfast in the dining room, and then we packed our bags and made our way to the train station. Our journey to London was peaceful. That is, until I decided to question Holmes further about Lowenstein. You told Bennet that something would be done about Lowenstein. Are you going to tell Lestrade what we've discovered? Holmes looked at me over the newspaper he was reading.
No, not yet. I don't want to leave this matter in the hands of those inefficient Scotland Yard inspectors. And besides, I still have to come up with a very good reason to get Lowenstein to come to London.
Yes, that's true, I said. Any idea how you'll manage that? Holmes grinned and folded up the newspaper neatly.
I'll tell you what I have in mind, Watson,
he said.
But first I think we should have some lunch. What do you say?
I couldn't argue with that.
Now, let's move to our PPT about the main points of the chapter. Chapter 7. Okay. The chapter starts when Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson, and Mr. Bennet went to Professor Bransby's study room. Bennet started to search the professor's desk drawers for the small wooden box which held all the professor's secrets. After Bennet found it, he offered the key to Holmes and he opened it easily. The box contained an empty bottle, a bottle filled with pale blue liquid, a hypodermic syringe, and some pills of payment signed A. Duroc. Here, they were sure that Holmes was right when he said that the professor had been taking medication. Holmes then found a letter in the box, which was from Prague. He read it aloud. The letter was from Dr. Howard Lowenstein to the professor, telling him about the new serum that he had to take, and that he could order it from Alphonse Duroc in London. After listening to Holmes reading the letter, Bennet thought that the professor had been taking some kind of potion, which he thought would help him gain his youth. But why did he keep that a secret? Holmes thought that the professor was afraid that Bennet and Edith would react negatively about what he was doing, so he kept it a secret. Holmes began to examine one of the bottles carefully and found that it had a longer extract. And we must know that longer is a type of monkeys. Holmes finally solved the case of the professor and found out that Roy attacked the professor as he sensed that his master was turning into a monkey. Although the professor was an intelligent man, he thought that medication, in Holmes' opinion, the professor did that as he didn't know the side effects of it, and he was in love with a much younger woman. Here we come to an important point. Who was Dr. Lowenstein? Holmes knew about him as Inspector Lester, and Scotland Yard showed Holmes his case file a few months ago. He left England when his medical license was taken away. He went to Prague, where he met his serums, which he claimed could help reverse the aging process. Until the time he hadn't been arrested, because there wasn't enough proof of what he had done, and the police could arrest him only when he came back to England. Then Holmes and Dr. Watson told Bennett that the professor would be fine again if he stopped taking the serum. After all, Dr. Lowenstein had to pay for what he had done. Holmes thought about a plan to bring Dr. Lowenstein to London again before telling the police about the case and about what they had discovered, as he thought that the policemen were inefficient. That's all we have in this chapter. Now let's answer some questions. Answer the following questions. 1. What did Holmes find inside the wooden box? The answer is, he found 2 bottles, a syringe, and some pills of payment signed A. Durant. 2. Why didn't the professor tell anybody about the medication? The answer is, he was afraid that his family would react negatively. 3. It wasn't strange that Roy attacked the professor. Explain. Because Roy sensed that his master was turning into a monkey. 4. Why has Dr. Lowenstein never come back to London? Because if he came back, he would be arrested. 5. Why wouldn't Holmes tell Inspector Lestrade about what he had discovered? Because he thought that Scotland Yard's inspectors were inefficient. 6. There is a letter here, and it's postmarked Prague. Who said these words to whom and when? Holmes said these words to Bennett and Watson after he opened the wooden box. 7. Of course, none of his drugs work, but the separate people will do anything. Who said these words to whom and when? Holmes said these words to Bennett and Watson when he was telling them about Dr. Howard Lowenstein. Complete the following sentences. 1. After reading Dr. Howard's letter, Bennett concluded that the professor had been taking some kind of potion, which he thought would help him regain his youth. 2. After examining the label on one of the bottles with his magnifying glass, Holmes found out that it contained linger extract. 3. Holmes was sure that the professor was unaware of the side effects and that he was taking the serum because he was in love with a much younger woman. 4. Dr. Lowenstein was operating out of a secret laboratory in Prague where he manufactured serum which could reverse the aging process. 5. Once the professor stopped taking the serum, the symptoms should go away and he would be normal again. 6. As the professor's case had been solved, Holmes and Watson would return to London. 7. Holmes asked Bennett to make sure that the professor recovers from his injury and that he never takes the serum again. Thanks for watching and goodbye.